always fresh and highly informative. The
Where the
Smooth
F1s
Breakfast presents the headlines, the stories, the news, in-depth analysis
People
of
on
national
YouTube are looking
current
at me
affairs.
scrolling on the mic.
Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
You think that's me? Do I do this?
Have you done it?
No, it's not doing it.
And we're in again for Freshly Pressed right here, Smooth 98.1. In the next 30 minutes, we'll be taking you around with some of the big stories making the rounds in Nigeria from our national dailies. My name is Victor Pepple. It's more like a full studio this morning. I'm so excited. I have the men right here live in the studio. We have Lakule. Good morning to you.
Morning, people. Morning, Lagos.
We also have Devo Korea. Good morning, Devo.
Good morning, Lagos. Cool. Who were native doctor?
We also have Mr. C joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Lakone. Good morning, Devo. Good morning, Lagos.
We're streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth 91 FM Lagos. Be part of the show. Send in messages on WhatsApp 009-444-0981. Tweet us at Smooth 91 FM Lagos. Let's quickly get into the stories from the Punch newspaper. Native doctors attire. Court declines hearing lawyer's case. Now, Justice Tijani Jim of the Federal High Court here in Lagos, on Monday, refused to hear two cases of a human rights lawyer, Malcolm Omirabo, who adorned himself in a lawyer's gown with native doctor attire to the court. In fact, the lawyer also appeared barefooted with cowries tied to his two legs. His wig had two long feathers with cowries in his two hands and tied a red wrapper while he wore his lawyer's gown on it. When he appeared in court, his colleagues were aggrieved and they said, Honorable Justice, this cannot go on. We will not let this man continue to dress in this manner. Therefore, we come to you for this, analysis of this story.
You're literally asking me to analyze drama. Well, unfortunately, we've come to this state in this country, and this has taken place across our politics, our governance, and now our judicial systems have instituted, let's call this, what do we say, religious garb attire episode 1. Now, a lawyer was bounced on account of having, or on account of he was improperly dressed. He was not in line with the professional code when he came to the court to have his case heard, right? The judge bounced him and told him that he would have to submit papers at the adjourned date stating why the court should listen to him, should hear him out. Now, he objected to this position, saying that his appearance was constitutionally backed, right? According to the last Supreme Court ruling, whereby they said that, I think that was a student case, that a student could wear their hijabs or the religious wears in school as freedom of expression. Now, first question that comes to mind was because once the Supreme Court rules, that supersedes every other position in any other lower court. So the first question was the judge not aware that the Supreme Court had already ruled on this? 1. 2, the lawyer, in his own interpretation, as they say, just simply applied the law that if you can wear yours in a public location, if that's now the Constitution, then I should feel free to also wear my religious gown, because he claimed that he was a traditional worshiper, to the courts, right? Now, for me, and this is why I call it drama, because it becomes a game of logic on display, or two can play this game. And it's a lot of fuss when you begin to, it will always become a fuss when you introduce religion into professional code of ethics, all right? And be it school uniforms, be it security forces, the operational gear, be it the gender confusion, we're always going to get to this point. And it's unfortunate also because we've had this pop up at different times within the country. I remember in Osun State when the then governor, that's the current Minister of Internal Affairs, did the same thing in their schools. And at the end of the day, many of the students were coming to class in various traditional wares or cultural wares, all in the name of, well, if you allowed him, you must allow him. And the issue here was it becomes a vicious cycle once we start arguing rules, public rules on the basis of religion, because no one's religion is superior to the other. Neither, and we will never agree on account of religion. We will never be on the same page because it's a matter of private privilege, matter of private concern. Now, unfortunately, we've forgotten the fact that we're referring to the operational code of conduct, in this case for lawyers, or in the school's case, operational code of conduct for students' uniforms, or in the security forces cases, what they need to wear to be efficient in their jobs. That is the point. But unfortunately, you see, we're not arguing that. We're arguing, oh, my religion allows, my own religion doesn't allow, and you will never agree on those terms. Now, forgetting the fact that Nigeria is a circular state, we're not, you see, the point is we're not even discussing religion. And unfortunately, also, instead of paying attention to the real issues dogging Nigeria, we've spent a lot of man hours, honestly, wasted on trying to prove this point. Now, at the end of the day, like in the case of students, if you do want to drive your religious position, then you'll have to keep it out of the public space or go to institutions that are faith-based so that people in that surrounding understand you for what you are. Now, I hope, and this is the resolution, that now that the last CJ has exited, the new CJ may or take time to review this, because this is just the beginning of a lot of chaos coming into our system.
Mr. C, you're a lawyer. I mean, there were other lawyers in court who were saying he's not supposed to be dressed in native doctor attire to the courtroom, and this case was adjourned because of how he was how he appeared in court. But he's saying constitutionally, if you ask students to wear religious attires to schools, I can also wear religious attires to the courtroom.
Okay, so very quickly, he's conflating oranges and apples. Now, there are rules of professional conduct for lawyers, and he voluntarily agreed to be a lawyer. He wasn't compelled, he wasn't coerced to become a lawyer. Now, he's bound by those rules, and those rules clearly do not provide for wearing native attire to court. They prescribe a dress code. And what he wore to the court, what he's been wearing to the court lately, do not fall within the permissible dress code.
But he says that the Constitution supersedes those rules.
No. So here's what it is. We must understand what was decided by the Supreme Court in the hijab case. It was about school children and whether they may be permitted to wear, the female Muslim students, whether they may be permitted to wear hijabs to school. There was no mention of lawyers in that case. The courts will only decide what is placed before them. If he wants to file a suit requesting that legal practitioners be allowed to dress like native doctors, let him file one. But when he comes to court, he should dress like the lawyer he's supposed to
I
be.
think the question to actually ask this lawyer is to say that, okay, is that how you dress every day? And as in everywhere you go, is that the way he dresses?
No, like school uniforms.
That is normal the way of
like
dressing.
School uniforms. That's his own.
No. I'm saying, is that the way he dresses on a normal day?
To where?
To anywhere at all?
No, school uniforms. Just a moment.
I'm saying, what is the issue about the piece of clothing that somebody says I want to wear over my head because my religion says I should? In this world today, we're talking about inclusivity, diversity and inclusion. It's unfortunate that we here in Nigeria, we're now talking about things like this.
He's also saying he's a traditional worshiper.
And the question is that how he dresses on an everyday basis? If that is the way he dresses on an everyday basis, then he has an argument.
Okay.
And like Mr. C says, the court will not give you what you did not ask for. let him go and ask for his own, like the people who wanted to wear hijab asked for their own.
All right.
I mean, that's
let's,
the way
let's
I
keep
think
this
it is.
moving real quickly from These Day newspaper, and we'll come to you, Mr. C, for this. Like Tinubu, APC's vice presidential placeholder Masari declares certificates missing. In a strange coincidence, documents submitted by the vice presidential candidate of the APC, Ibrahim Masari, to INEC has revealed that, like his principal, Senator Tinubu, he could not produce requisite certificates to back his stated academic qualifications.
Victor.
What is going on, Mr. C?
So the APC as a party apparently doesn't learn any lessons from history.
How so?
Take the last election in Bayelsa. The running mate to the gubernatorial candidate, Mr. David Leon, had all sorts of issues with his certificates. In fact, he tendered over 5 different certificates.
Even names.
Each one of them had a different set of names. Then he cobbled together some affidavits trying to connect all 5 different documents. And rightly speaking, the court, I think it was the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, I can't remember which one, threw out the 5 documents plus the affidavit and said they found it impossible to believe that all 5 documents belonged to one person and that person being him. And they were not going to accept the affidavit that was put together in respect of those documents. Fast forward 2 or 3 years later, we're back to the same issue. Now, in 1999, during Senator Tinubu's first term, he was challenged in court by the late Gani Fawehinmi as to the certificate he tendered as qualifications to run for the office of governor. However, that case couldn't go far because the courts ruled that whilst he was in office, he was immune from civil or criminal suits. Incidentally, the late Gani Fawehinmi passed on. Now, in 1999, let's put this in context. He stated a primary school he attended. He stated a secondary school he claimed to have attended. He listed 2 schools in Chicago, 2 universities in Chicago he attended. That was for his first term. Second term in 2003, the primary school and the secondary school vanished. He doesn't list them, but he still lists 2 schools in.
Now,
About
the
Chicago.
governor of Imo State faults INEC for that and says if he had submitted certain qualifications with certificates in 1999, INEC should have records of them rather than ask him for this certificate again.
Well, I just want to take
okay.
a position with Mr. C. You said APC didn't learn. They did learn. So when your certificate, your documents cannot align, sign an affidavit that they're missing.
No,
I
so,
don't even understand.
so let me come back to this.
Sorry, we'll come to you, Lakule.
The law states that when you file your nomination papers, there's a form EC9 that bears your particulars. For whatever thing you claim to have achieved from an educational perspective, you are supposed to attach a copy of the certificate or result that was given. Now, I've read reports suggesting that Senator Tinubu did not attend primary or secondary school. I find that impossible to believe, because he's the acclaimed son, biological or adopted, of the late Iyaloja of Lagos. So it is clearly impossible that he could not have afforded to go to school. That's one. So the law does not provide for attaching affidavits or letters from universities. The law is clear. Attach copies of your certificate. So the main guy has a problem. The second guy, who they call a placeholder, which incidentally has no place in Nigerian law, has the same problem. What is the joke? Why are you insulting the collective intelligence and sensibilities of Nigerians? Is the APC suggesting that in that entire collective of individuals, they cannot find 2 individuals who actually have certificates? But
our constitution also stipulates that you can, if you can read and write, at the barest, if you can read and write, you can run for office.
Yes, so if you can read and write. But in this case, your main guy says he didn't go to primary school. He has refused to give us the details of his primary school.
But can he read and write?
No. What the Constitution says, let me take you to what the Constitution says is, 1, a university degree or a teacher's training certificate or a diploma, higher or lower. Then a secondary school leaving certificate or proof you sat for the exam. Or a first school leaving certificate or proof you sat for the exam. Now, in this case, none of them has provided proof they sat for the first school leaving certificate exams because they claim their results or certificates are missing.
No, but they've shown a superior degree. Once the superior degree, it nullifies.
No, Masari did not show anything. He said everything got lost in transit in Abuja last year.
Unfortunately.
Okay, so
now, Tinubu says he cannot find his certificates, that between 94 and 98, unknown soldiers raided his home several times.
Unfortunately.
Now, which is funny because the very next year, he tendered those certificates.
For 1999 election.
Yes.
It's-
So
you see-
what was
you
missing?
see, my
Maybe the photocopies were what he used, but
my,
however,
my
luckily,
problem with all of this is that why are we also fixated about presenting a certificate in the first instance, like you said, when the law says all you need to show is that I am literate and I have work experience to justify that I can do this job.
so you
that's
don't, you
not
don't, you
the
don't think
No,
that
I'm saying that is technically what it is.
no, you
The
don't
law
think
does
that we,
not
we
say-
need leaders who
It
have
only
at
says
least
if you write
Lakule-
that you have a degree, you must show
Lakule, don't you
evidence.
think that we as
It
Nigerians
didn't say you cannot say you
just
don't
a
have
moment,
a degree.
Lakule, we live in a country of about 200 million people, some PhD holders, some professors, some
Yeah.
at the best secondary school certificates. You don't think that in Nigeria like this we need leaders who can at least show that
The people you are describing are the ones who have refused to throw their heart in the ring, who have refused to join the parties, who have refused to play second fiddle to the people we are talking about now.
So is that
You people like you and I,
so?
Okay.
we are here, we are
Can
speaking
I say
English.
this? The
The
truth is-
leader of the one of the parties in my ward is a vulcanizer. I'm not demeaning him in any way, but that is what he is. So I will say, how can I go and sit in the same meeting
but
with
people
him?
say that we pay
and I
money,
will
we
not
play
join.
money politics in Nigeria. If you like having look at Professor Mowalu from the CBN, could he even win his elections at the ADC?
That is the politics because you
no,
cannot.
but you are saying that
You
people are
cannot
not
join politics and go and start at the top. What is Moralu's
Okay.
whatever?
Can-
He started
can I-
at the
okay,
top.
like-
Can I state this for what it is?
Okay.
It's an ethical issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Ethics is not so much about capacity and what you've done. If we want to play that politics as Nigerians, we must decide that this is how we will
We want to
hold
do it.
people accountable, right? Credentials presentation is valuable anywhere else in the world. You can't just come and say, well, because I was sitting beside the doctor when he was carrying an operation, I am now a surgeon. I mean, I've done it for 10 years. I've sat beside the highest doctors. But the truth is, INEC, in this case the umpire, should deliver appropriately. So we'll wait to see how far they go.
Quickly, let's look through some of the messages. Timothy comes in, says, please, outside the country, do students wear religious clothes to government institutions? Also, I see hijabs being worn
Absolutely.
to and in court. Are there selective considerations? Please kindly tell me.
Absolutely, they were everywhere.
They wear
I
hijabs?
have a brochure in my house, a school in the UK inviting. Yes, they do.
Okay, Tunji says, Mr. C, will a female lawyer be stopped from wearing hijab to court?
No.
Okay, and we have Popsy Aliyu from Lasso saying, Matawale's directive is an order as long as the attacks and killings. Okay, we've not gotten to that yet. Mr. C, the schools also have their rules for student uniforms, with a religious sect insisting that it was inadequate as per their religion, and the court ruled in their favor. And someone from Lekki says the fact should remain that uniforms must be enforced. Those who want to wear hijabs should go to schools where hijabs are allowed. Otherwise, we'll be creating a situation that will result in chaos. What is wrong with the APC and their certificate wahalas? Well, Big E says, Devo, everyone has a right to express himself, and he did. Since the hijab is a right to wear everywhere by Muslims, it should be allowed. He did not stunt for market days. The CGN resigned. He did this stunt, and 4 days later the CGN resigns. We need the gods in our judicial system. Okay, one more, we get back to the stories on this hijab issue. I guess some are deliberately mischievous. Like I mentioned here in the past, the hijab should not be compared with other religions and their attires. The reason is, unlike the hijab, which is an everyday and everywhere wear, other religious attires are by practice conditional or ceremonial. Fatai is the one who sent that in. Quickly, we come back to you now, Devo. Perhaps in 2 minutes, let's look at this from These Day newspaper. FIRS to the rescue as subsidy gobs NNPC's revenue.
Well, this is actually a major story, and I'll just try and summarize because it's a lot of numbers. Now, basically, what's being said here is that Nigeria receives earnings from basically two sectors: the oil revenue and then the non-oil revenue, and the FIRS is on top of the non-oil revenue collection. Recently, we've always known that the oil revenue has been our major contribution,
Right.
but currently that is shifting. And as of 2021, the FIRS recorded about 60% of the non-oil revenue of the contribution to the federal government, and then oil revenue was about 40%. And they collected in 2021 about 8.9 trillion. All right. Now, 40% of that, which was the oil revenue, um, that's about 4 trillion, was heavily deducted by subsidy, right? Then the 60%, that was the 5.2 trillion, that was the non-oil revenue collection. Now, because the oil revenue is heavily deducted because of subsidy, the federal government is not getting so much at the end of the day. So now the federal government is really relying on the non-oil revenue collections to actually fund its budgets. Now, the drop in this contribution, okay, because people need to understand why our oil revenue contributions are dropping. It's not because there is a astronomical increase in the non-oil side, but about $650 million was lost to crude oil theft, one, and then two, the deductions that are taking place because of subsidy. And because of this, it's expected to continue throughout the end of the year. Now, basically, the good news here is fine. FIRS is improving its tax collection and non-oil revenue collections. The bad news is that the bulk of our earnings, which is the balance we have after debt service is made, leaves very little for the continuation of the mandate. Hence, we keep borrowing, putting Nigeria in more debt. And this is what is required, a very resolute, hard decision, because right now it just seems as if the government cannot take the hard decision to lift the subsidy. Neither have they done anything extensively to be able to address the crude oil theft. So Nigeria is broke, and we're not really addressing the issues that can bring us back to a position where we can repay. So it's a very, very, literally a terrible situation for future prosperity.
Thank you very much. Let's leave it there and quickly move to Daily Post, where mass defection. Details of Buhari's meeting with aggrieved APC senators emerge. Lakunle, you want to share more on that?
Just last night, I was discussing with a friend, and I said to him that the leadership of this country is not about our common good. It's about what is good for people in position of leadership only. You would look at this story, and like Mr. C said earlier, the APC doesn't seem to be learning from history. The same things that gave them the advantage over the other party in 2015, when the other party collapsed, and members of that party en masse decamped to APC to give them the advantage. 2015, that gave them the power to the advantage to win the presidency in 2015 is what is happening here to them themselves. They are self-imploding. Having said that, let's also look at this from the other side. These senators were the same people who sat and threw Agbada up and down and spoke beautiful English and read from long written messages to move motions about an electoral law. And it is the same electoral law that they signed off, they pressured the president to sign, is the same thing that made all of them lose their primaries in their respective states. So what is the point in what they are doing here, that they want to decamp to another party? When you make a law that decapitates you yourself, how does that happen? 109 of them, not one person of them could see that there was a danger in the move they were asking for, what they were asking for in that law. So this now, whether they move or not, the point is that they have lost here. Then the other parties that have elected or appointed candidates, are they going to tell those ones to step down for them, or they are just going to do protest votes and carry their votes to the other party so the other party can win? I mean, so they can't. I don't see them winning in any way in this. So it's just a waste of our time, because it is not our business really. This is about self-preservation.
All right. So much questions to ask on that, but let's keep it going because of time. To the Guardian newspaper we go. Worries over vandalism in security as Nigeria awards 49 oil licenses. Devo.
Well, there's good and bad news here. Basically, many of the oil mineral licenses were up for renegotiation with the federal government, and through the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, they had awarded up to about 49 prospective licenses. Now, the issue here is that it's coming at a time when the major IOCs, that's the Shell, the Chevrons, the Mobils, are exiting the country for issues of vandalism, insecurity. Basically, the business justification is going in the negative for them, and that portends a warning to Nigeria that even though the country has made a lot of money in the sale of these licenses, is it still commercially viable in the long run for the oil company players that have taken position? So the regulatory company is saying, well, at this point in time, oil price is at an all-time high. It's above $120 per barrel. They're saying that they should take advantage and get their fields to productive states. So really, the long and short of this, like we mentioned before, is investment does not marry insecurity. They will never come together. Anywhere there's insecurity, investment will divorce and run. And we need to be careful about this in the long run, because whilst we have domestic efforts, we always accelerate our business endeavors, our economy, by international investment and efforts within the country. So we wait to see whether the current and the pending governments will address this issue to be able to keep the investment climate positive.
All right, so let's see how much messages we can take before we wrap things up. Yinka Bolu says a bit of balance and objectivity here. Did unknown soldiers raid his house, yes or no? If yes, then good luck to proving that soldiers put his credentials aside before raiding his house. Or let the electoral body present what he attached the last time he was in office. Sounds like a Hopus Odima here. This is the same country where when you graduate with a third class, labor market is already leading you 3-0, meaning getting a job is hellish, yet the rule is different in politics, and we have no problems about that. I'm sorry, that's double standards. Chibuza comes in and says, both previous and present administrations are the same. Had it been the comfort suggestions were money to spend and embezzlements, none of the governments will give excuses why they won't touch it. When it comes to policies that benefit the masses, government will not be continuing. Okay, Shehu sends a message as a response to Fatai's message. Says he cannot speak for when practitioners of other religions wear their religious attires, and that's even for the religions he know. I can wake up any day and start a new religion that brings in new attires and requires me to wear them 24 hours a day. I give you the Church of Microwave. Okay, thank you very much. Quickly, let's keep running. Chika from Marina says, on this Tinubu and his running mate claiming not to find their certificates truly shows that Nigeria is a country with theater of absurdity. To get a job of 50K, you need second-class upper. To be employed as lecturer 2, you need PhD. But to be president, you only need to know how to read and write. It goes on and on. Well, Dakbo sends a message, says there's no doubt whatsoever that BAT, that's Bola Tinubu, is educationally qualified to perform the job he's seeking. But the problem is his shady past and lack of transparency. Nigerians need a breath of fresh air, and we simply cannot continue with this recycled crowd and status quo. All right. This one in, I totally disagree with Lakule, whose analysis this morning seems to trivialize the APC's candidate certificate for obvious irregularities at this time. We can't get ahead with this sort of mentality. And this one came in from Teen Yaba, says, can WAEC come to the rescue for Tinubu and his vice? Yeah, I think they can reissue, can't they?
He never said he wrote WAEC.
Okay. Let's keep it going. We have a message here from Nii. Nii sends this one. It says, was it because non-oil was significantly increasing, or rather oil revenue is dropping? Devo, I think that's for you.
Oil revenue is dropping.
Okay. And let's see if we can take just one more story before we go. Just a rider to the story you took earlier. This in from Premium Times. Senate may amend Electoral Act. Reconsider stance on direct bribery.
Here we go again. The same thing we said earlier. They were the ones who sat, who pressured, who came to the public to pressure the president to sign. We remember that the president wasn't going to sign that thing that time. We all made noise that Mr. President was, some of us said Mr. President was actually planning a third-term agenda. That's why he was refusing to sign. And now he signed. The section that got all of them out of the way is the 84, section 84, subsection 12 or something that says something about, that knocks out the statutory delegates, and that's what we have. So he put into the hands of the governors to select or to appoint or to elect the delegates who eventually went to vote to choose these people. So it comes back to what we're saying, that this, our Senate, it's not really about us, it's about them, self-preservation. They are not serious about making laws to make this country governable or enjoyable by people. See what has happened, even the one that affects them as individuals.
No, but you
see
see,
how they
at the
it.
end of the day, power belongs to the people. They have constituents who went to elect, and perhaps some chose different representatives to come back
Democracy
to the Senate, and
is
that's
going
why.
on.
Exactly, but the senators are angry because some of them are not coming back in
But because
2023.
they were the ones that made the law that is stopping them from coming back.
The power belongs to the constituents, and the constituents have said, "Oh, we don't want you back." Simple. There's no point going to Mr.
Even before
President.
the election, the law says the people that they were depending on to make them win, the law has removed them from being able to vote.
Gentlemen, we need to go. But we must thank you very much, Lakule, for being a part of the show. Devo, thank you very much for your analysis, as well as Mr. C. We'll bring you Locker Room at 8:15 this morning. My name is Victor Pepple. Catch us at Smooth 981 FM on Twitter. Let's keep the conversation going. Good morning.
The headlines, the stories, the news.
Which one for
Certificates.
Tinubu